So thank you so much for joining us. Uh, and we'll start off with a couple of questions about what brought you to Rutgers in the first place.
I actually had I transferred into Rutgers. I went to DeVry University right out of high school, and I wanted to work for a university, but I didn't get into any D1 right off the bat. So I went to the Rutgers, started working for Rutgers football while I was at DeVry. And that was kind of where I was like, okay, well, I like being here, and hopefully I can stay, That's pretty much that. Everything kind of just happened for a reason.
Sure thing. And your time at Rutgers, did you major in anything in particular, or when did you graduate?
I graduated with HR, bachelor's in human resource management, minor in labor studies. I just wanted to do something because for sports, it's just all about experience. And I worked all throughout the Rutgers football program as much as I could. As much as I could. I did video, recruiting, ops, and definitely my bread and butter is equipment managing.
That's amazing. And talk about your path from Rutgers to the Minnesota Vikings.
So pretty much I didn't know a lot of people in the NFL, and my dream growing up was to work in the NFL as an equipment manager, starting since junior year in high school. And I was in a fraternity. I was in Chi Psi fraternity, and one of my brothers, he knew the Wilfs. His grandfather was the barber for the Wilf family.
Wow. What a connection.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, like, he didn't really tell, like, he said that before, but I really didn't put two and two together. And when it was my time in 2014, I started calling teams, doing research and calling teams daily. And brothers would come in and be like, "Oh, who'd you talk to today? Who'd you talk to?" I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And I remember it was, two other teams in the Vikings, and AJ's name. He goes, "Hey, well, my grandfather works for my grandfather's the barber for the Wilfs." So we gave him my resume, and he gave it to his grandfather, and then he gave it to Mark Ziggy, and then 2 months later, I get a phone call and saying, "Hey, we want to interview you for a full season."
Wow. I mean, and based on what happened with you, what advice would you give a current Rutgers student who is looking to network? It's an amazing story, Terrell.
Honestly, like, I joined a fraternity not for networking, but for like a traditional feeling, because I didn't really have that as much growing up. But I wanted to have friends, and it wasn't like I can make friends, but I just wanted a family and a connected unit, and obviously friends as well. But when I go talk to people, I want to be your friend more so than I want a connection, and then that kind of pays off over time. I mean, a lot of things that I have going on in my life have been having my friends help me through. And I make that's probably my biggest advice. Make friends, not connections, because friends also make connections. They also help you further than networking.
Speaking of friends, do you have a particular memory of your time at Rutgers?
Yeah. I would say probably there's a handful that comes to mind. I love the fact that we're so passionate, and every time I go to every single time I stepped out, obviously it's packed, everybody's wearing the Rutgers stuff, but Probably my good memories is probably the 2011 and kind of 12 season. In my first year there, seeing campus life and everything. I think the campus life is one that I've cherished and I miss the most.
And let's talk about your current job, because I think to the public, the equipment manager is the person who makes sure that all the equipment is in everybody's locker, and has some of the most thankless work in the world. But talk about a typical day for an equipment manager. Obviously, pre-COVID.
Yeah. So a typical day would be during the season is I would arrive to work around, let's say 6:30. Well, and I'll start we have our duties. My boss will say, hey, we need to do this and X, Y, and Z. I'll walk in with players and coaches and whoever else is coming in the morning. We have normally just either laundry to kind of take care of, packing for a game, breaking down from the previous game, or getting ready for some special project. And I tacked on the emergency sewer, the emergency tailor. So like if I have to work on a project where I have to stitch some pants up or stitch a item onto a shirt for injury reasons, then I do that for the time being as well. And then we have walkthrough, and then for walkthrough, I kind of usually either I'm on the field working with some players just for a little bit and holding chains. And then afterward, we have more laundry, which is fine, but it's something else that's something else comes up, then I'll take care of it. Whereas packing up the truck, getting ready to roll for another game, or writing something to one of our vendors, and then afterward, then lunch and then practice. And in practice, I work with you set up the field. I go to my coach and quarterbacks to say, what's going on, what do you need? Then I either help catch, help throw, either run a route, do whatever they tell me to do. Set the field breakdown, and then kind of just facilitate. And if there's a problem equipment wise, we take care of it. Helmet, shoulder pads, you name it for the equipment side. But yeah, that's usually a typical day. Afterward, break down practice, and then let's do what we got to do and go to the next day.
And I want to clarify, because you mentioned 6:30 for a start. That's 6:30 a.m., right?
Yes. Yeah. 6:30 a.m. Yeah, Central Time.
Yeah, and the typical day may not end until after all the team meetings might be later at night, especially during training camp, right?
Yeah, and I mean we don't have to stay for that, but we the cool thing is we can when they're in their team meetings, obviously we can go up and eat, and we get fed food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is awesome. But we take care of this stuff because we're there early and we stay usually late, and game days are a different story.
I had read someplace, was it last season, when I think it was the New England Patriots equipment waylaid in another city, and it almost didn't arrive in time for the game.
Yeah. Well, Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kansas City.
That's right.
Yeah, Kansas City to New England. Everybody kind of, I think every equipment manager's heart dropped. I can't speak on the logistics and what happened because we don't know as much. But it was just it's one of those things where then you have to just be cautious, and even if you think that you're right, just check and make sure that you are correct. And I feel bad. We felt bad for him, obviously. Alan Wright is his name, or the whole staff actually, but for the Kansas City Chiefs. But yeah, that's a hard stopper.
Yeah, and I bet you I know in everybody's life now, before there was a plan A and maybe a plan B. And I bet you now with all the COVID things going on and supply chain management issues, I bet you're probably thinking plan C, plan D for the season, right?
Yeah, yeah. I can't. We're, everybody doesn't know what's going on, so like that's the biggest. I mean, and this is just all throughout the world. So obviously, you just have to be cautious.
And how are you spending your time now? Since the season or spring or training camp has not started yet.
We're working. We have stuff and projects to work on at home. I get stuff sent to me, and then I kind of just work from there. So we are working still, but anything else, we still don't know, and that's go with the flow is yeah.
And I think I know with Rutgers graduates, they always talk about not only do you get a degree in your major, but also that Rutgers teaches you, I think, some life skills.
Yeah.
The word that comes up a lot is to be gritty, that you're going to get a lot of challenges in life and dealing with them. So how did your time at Rutgers prepare you for that type of trade?
So my biggest thing is a lot of people don't realize, like I would, a typical day for me in college would be to wake up at 5, kind of get ready for the day. About 6 o'clock, I'll get picked up from my buddy. We would go into work. We'll go into practice, and we'll set up, have everything set, ready, go. About 11:30, 12 after practice ends for Rutgers football, we would go on the bus. I'll go to class, and after class, I have another class. And then after that, I'll go home to the fraternity, the lodge, and I would hang out for a bit and, do what I have to do. And then we'll have a fraternity event. And after a fraternity event, I may have to work at the Olive Branch as a bartender, bouncer, or, bar back. And then I'll do that until 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning. And then I start the day over again.
Wow. So, that's jam-packed.
Yeah. And I also was a property manager, and I did odd jobs on the side, and I was my fraternity's house manager as well. So I had a lot of things going on, and I thought I appreciate that a lot, just to keep me busy. And, my mind's always going and making sure that I help me with management a little bit, managing my time.
You gave Olive Branch a shout out. How about giving a shout out to your fraternity?
Yeah, Chi Psi fraternity, the lodgers, right on the corner of Bartlett and College Ave. Yeah.
And there's a graduating class that just left Rutgers virtually.
Yes, yeah.
Back in May. They're trying to figure out their path in the world. What advice do you have for them?
Don't settle for anything less than what you are. Know your worth. Be who you are, and people would gravitate towards you.
And what advice do you have for students who are trying to network in these times? I mean, your story is unique about getting your job through a haircut.
Oh, yeah, and I need one.
Look at me too.
My advice for people trying to network is to call or do whatever. I mean, there's people who I feel when people go out and reach out to me, I can put myself in their shoes and I will help them as much as I can. But obviously I don't have a lot of, I don't have that much right now because I'm kind of fairly new, but I can just point them into the right direction on where to go. But just practice talking with yourself to other people. That's the one thing that I learned in HR, that if you just practice what you're going to say, it will come out a lot clearer, and then people would understand you. And that's probably the one thing that I can say is just, be honest and just practice talking.
And then your schedule is crazy, obviously. It was crazy in college. How are you keeping in touch with fellow alumni?
I usually call them. I've talked to either my equipment guys. I have one buddy who works at UMass that I speak to on a regular basis. Some coaches. Obviously, I was there with Fleck. I was his equipment manager, and a long list of coaches. So I kind of still I talk to him for a little bit, not often, but because he's busy recruiting. But and fraternity brothers I talk to on a daily basis. So I just always reach out, and I know people aren't going to be, if they don't respond, I know they're busy, but they always respond later, and that's okay for me.
Are you currently based in Minnesota?
Yes. Yep. I live in Bloomington, Minnesota, right by the Mall of America.
Talk about what's going on in the community, and things you've seen, and things that the Vikings may be doing to get involved. Yourself too.
In terms of everything going on, I try to find volunteering helpful. I think that's healing, helps with healing. And I know that some of our players have a lot of events going on. I participated in one of our players' events in one of our community relations events, which was a Salvation Army thing. Kyle held a food drive, and so that's some of the big things that the Vikings have done. If that makes sense. That as a community, people are just branching out and doing stuff.
And final one, too. How many times when you tell people that you're the equipment manager for the Vikings, do you get the question, "Hey, can you get so and so's autograph?"
All the time. It's one of those things where I just tell people, and even family members, no, I can't do that. I would lie and say if I don't compensate in other ways, because I have, my tickets, but I would just tell them no as much as I can.
I'm somewhat familiar with that. Part of my job years ago was interfacing with a lot of sports figures, including members of the New York Mets. So I got to see a lot of things behind the scenes with the front office staff, and that they just work incredible hours, and the demands that are placed by them, and hearing questions from the public like, "What's so and so really like?" Too. So I think people don't appreciate the roles that people like you serve as ambassadors for the team.
Yeah. I'm friends with all the players. I talk to most of them daily. I know one of them, we watch the MTV show The Challenge every Wednesday, and we text each other, banter back and forth. But they're friends, they're people. They have regular conversations like everybody else. Just because they play football and make more money than I and yourself doesn't mean that they're less than who they are.
And final one, do you see the Minnesota Vikings being chosen to appear on Hard Knocks?
I hope not. I just hope not. That will be a day. I don't. Hopefully we just keep winning so we don't have to do that. That's just my opinion.
That's great.